It is my absolute honor and pleasure to be speaking today with Gwenna Hunter. I don't know, Phil, if we can both be highlighted at the same time, maybe not. So I know Gwenna's here and maybe, hi, Gwenna, there you go.
Hi.
So, you know, I've never met Gwenna Hunter in the three-dimensional world. And yet if somebody said, give me a list of your, I don't know, we'll say 12 because that's a great spiritual number, your 12 favorite girlfriends, she would absolutely be on that list. And I think that's a real show of spirituality, that somehow we can connect spirit to spirit, even when there's a lot of distance between us. So welcome from LA, Gwenna.
Thank you so much for having me.
Give us a little background, Gwenna. Tell us about what kind of religious background you started out with as a child.
So, my religious upbringing for the first, I would say, 12 years of my life were very, there was a lot of duality simultaneously. So, one part of my household was, so my stepfather was atheist, pure atheist, and my mom was a believer, but not in a really religious type of way. And on the weekends and sometimes summers, I would spend with my cousins who were super duper Baptist, Christian, holy roller type of religion. And so I had to navigate through all three of those different phases that would happen at the same time. With the Christianity, the Baptist, it was just a lot of music, a lot of screaming, a lot of Holy Ghost, just tongues, all of that stuff. And as a little child, sometimes I'm like, what the heck is going on right here? And I didn't know what to believe. And then at the same time, in my household, my stepfather was saying there was no such thing as God and things like that. And my mom was just like pretty neutral to all of it. So I had to always kind of find my own way.
How did that turn out as you grew up? Who did you follow originally, and then what happened?
So I would probably say, just because of the things that I saw as a child in the churches, with money being missing, fighting, and of course I blamed the religion and not the people, as most people do. And so I wanted nothing to do with Christianity. I knew that there was something more to the reality than saying that there was no such thing as God. I'm like, who made these colors? Who made these people? How do we have two hands and 2 feet? So even as a child, I knew that there was more to the story. And I always figured, I'm like, I'm going to find out the answer to all of this one day. And I ended up playing around with Christianity. I won't say playing around with Christianity, but going into Christianity for a few years of my life. And then dipped back out. And then one day I was living in Florida, and I moved across the street from a library, and I found these books by, I think his name is Neil Donald Walsh, and they were called Conversations with God. And my upbringing, I was kind of like falling into the program thinking that God was like this very judgmental, mean, jealous, vindictive type of energy, which, I want to know parts of any of that. But when I read this book, there were these different series, and it was a man that was basically saying that he was kind of like getting like downloads and messages from the source himself. And this version of God was funny, hilarious, open-minded, non-judgmental, loving, cool. I would want to hang out with this person. And I'm just like, wow, this isn't exactly what I thought. So as I started reading the books, it was just something that just started like taking me over. And I just really started believing that this is what I would imagine a divine creator to be. Because if I feel like I'm nicer than God, then we got a problem. And so that book and another book by Betty J. Eady called Embraced by the Light. It was a book where she had a near-death experience. And it's one of the most well-documented cases of someone that remembers a near-death experience. And she describes so many different things that I had experienced in my dreams. or in visions that I had as a child. So I knew this had to be true because I had never met her before. So after reading these different books, I started to kind of formulate my own relationship. And, and to this day, it just continues to evolve.
And your dreams, you mentioned dreams. I wanted to get into that with you because, I mean, I have dreams like I'm running around a big hotel or something and can't find my room, but you have cosmic dreams. So tell us about some of those that connect with your spirituality, connect with your vegan journey.
Yeah, so my whole life I've been a dreamer where I've had dreams where I've gotten warnings, dreams where I've felt love, unconditional love from animals, from different beings. I've seen angels. And so all those different type of experience. So I've always believed that dreams aren't just, a figment of your imagination and it's a part of your brain that's doing this. Like, no, these are messages. And I also believe that there are other realms as well that we exist on, but that's a whole nother church show. But as far as veganism is concerned, what really led me down the path was a dream. And so in the dream, I'm flying in the sky and I see this beautiful green pasture. Almost like my background right now. I didn't even plan that, to be honest with you, but it was very beautiful. And I see this cow and she's beautiful and she looks up at me and then something happened. Our eyes locked. And when they locked, we merged and became one. And I was the cow. And I felt everything. I heard everything. I saw everything, memories. I felt love. I felt childbirth. I felt how she loved her children, her connection to her community. I felt everything. The same thing you feel as being yourself, I felt as being the cow. And when I came out of the dream, I was like crying because it was so real. And I was crying because I was like, oh my God, cows love. And in all my spiritual seeking, I never even thought about this. It never even crossed in my realm at all. And I was vegetarian at the time and I wasn't eating cows or animals, but I didn't care if anybody else did. So there was no more morality involved at all for me. And so I'm sitting there and I'm just like, and as much as a believer that I am, I'm also my biggest skeptic. So I examine the things that I experience as well. So I'm like, did this really happen? Was this just a weird dream? Because cows, they love. And literally while I'm sitting there, all of a sudden I felt something warm, like someone took a heater and put it over my chest. And I look and I don't see anything. And I put my hand on it. And when I put my hand on this warmth, and this is while I'm wide awake, no more dreaming, I felt the most incredible peace I had ever felt before. I mean, I felt like I could have just like checked out of humanity and life and just resided in this presence, this energy that felt so loving, so warm, non-judgmental. And again, it was just peace. Like there was nothing to ever worry about and there never will be. That was like what that felt like. And I felt like she gave me a little piece of her to let me know, like, yeah, this really did happen. So it literally blew my mind because I'm like, oh, shoot, cows actually love and we're eating them. What the hell? We're eating them and they have the same sense and awareness of reality that we do. So I'm like, well, if they feel things, then maybe the other animals do too. So I started like researching, and within about a week or two, which I know was no coincidence, I came across the video, Dairy is Effing Scary by Aaron Janis. And when I saw that, I'm like, wait a minute, not only do they love and we're eating their bodies, we're putting them through slavery, rape, kidnapping, murder. Like I saw it clear as day. It wasn't like, oh, it's happening to this poor animal. Like I saw her as an equal. I saw her as a female. I saw her as a woman because I didn't even know they were pregnant for 9 months like human women. So my whole reality was just like crazily shifted. And I became like, I started, I guess my veganism was started off as morality. And for about 3-4 months, like all I was doing was showing slaughter videos and all types of stuff on my social. Like I went crazy for a minute because I couldn't believe that I didn't know this. And I'm like, if I don't know this, no one else knows it. But if they know it and I tell them, they'll start eating them too. Simple, right? And so that's what I did for about 4 months. And I realized by being a mirror of other people that were this way, that this wasn't really the way I give the message out. I have to be in a loving, kind, gentle place to be effective. So I started volunteering and getting involved and doing different things to figure out what felt right to me and what felt good. And it was all cool, but I realized I wanted to feed people because I'm like, well, if people, not everybody's going to get into it for morality. That's just too much work. But food, everybody has to eat. I don't know anybody that doesn't. So if people can try the food and see how good it is, like I know it is, then that'll help with the transitioning. And then that started my journey into being an activist.
Do you have any way to explain why the animal part was so much a part of your spiritual transformation early on, and other people can be spiritual or religious for decades, and the animal part just doesn't ever get to them? What's the difference?
Yeah, and it's very interesting because that is one area that I want to get more into as far as like reaching out to the hippie conscious community, because a lot of them, they're already there. It's like you just need this one little click, and then we'll get you the rest of the way. And I think it's because, cognitive dissonance is real in everybody. And you may have awareness in the animal rights area, but have another form of cognitive dissonance in a totally other area where you're just completely programmed and not seeing what's going on. And so I do give that a little bit of credit to why people feel that way. But there's also people that feel that, as a human being, you have free will to do whatever you want, which is true. We do have free will to do whatever we want on this planet. There are consequences that we create, but people are free to do whatever they want. And so some people reside in that, in the freedom to eat an animal, to do different types of things. And there's so many different reasons, but when it comes to like the spiritual community specifically, I think that's just an area where, especially if you're religious, because there are different parts of the Bible that does say, go and you can eat this type of animal, you can eat that type of animal, this is okay to eat. Even though I don't subscribe to that, because man has their hand in everything. And so as far as I'm concerned, that's a part that's written by a human being, not by a divine being or creator. So I don't subscribe to that, but a lot of us do subscribe to everything that's written, in text when it comes to these religious texts.
Well, I guess we just need to have people doing more lucid dreaming.
Yeah.
Gwenna, I know that you spend a lot of your life working for social justice. You work for animal rights. You also work for human rights. You're the founder of the Vegans for Black Lives Matter Facebook group. You feed the homeless. So is this part of your spiritual life, or is this something separate? Where do those two come together, if they do?
They're kind of all one and the same, because I think earlier, Reverend Sarah was saying how she described, I think it was me, she said compassion in action. So it's like, we can send thoughts and we can pray and meditate, and all that stuff works. Like it all works. But to put some physical action into it, like there's nothing like it. And, I never got involved in veganism is my very first type of form of rights that I've ever been involved in. I've always shied away from participating in marches and protests, and always looked at people that did that as like really courageous, but there's no way in hell I'm getting ready to go out there and march and protest and risk my safety and do all this other stuff. So it was never something that was even something I imagined or even had a desire to do. Even being vegan, like my whole life doesn't even make sense to me right now because I was on a totally different trajectory. But when you care about the planet and you care about the people that are on it and you care about the beings that are on it, and you really, for me, it's about restoring the planet back to whatever the original origin of it was, restoring peace back on earth or restoring heaven back on earth. And if I can do my little teeny tiny part, which is to help people wake up and see that, hey, what we're doing here is we've been kind of programmed and convinced that we should be eating dead bodies or we should be eating conscious, sentient, loving beings. And so if I can have these conversations with people and plant a seed, because, I don't know what's going to happen when I have the conversation. It may not penetrate, but something will go inside and maybe the next person may say something and so forth that helps wake them up. So I think we're just all doing our part in helping awaken the planet. And this is my form of it.
So tell us specifically, what are some of the things you're involved in? What do you do with your life?
So what I do, one, I work for Vegan Outreach, and I manage a vegan food aid program in Los Angeles. And with that program, what we do, we actually work and provide nutritional support for other social justice organizations, such as Black Lives Matter LA, Black Women Farmers of LA, Black Women for Wellness, and also the LGB Center South on MLK Drive. And what we do is we provide fresh, locally grown, and also organic produce, and fresh fruits, and organic strawberries, and things like that. We put them in bags. We will also provide some plant-based products like Beyond Meat, different things that they can try to help in the transitioning. And then we also provide a hot plant-based meal from a local restaurant. So they get to explore veganism, in 3 different ways, with the produce, which is really not veganism, but it's just, natural whole food, plant-based way to eat, and with the hot meals and, the local restaurant, and also with the products. And I also do something very similar for the animal save movement. So I manage the Los Angeles Downtown Crenshaw Project. They are anti-gentrification. And so they're about making sure that their communities that they have the opportunity to buy up their own community and not other people. And so I do that with them every 3rd Saturday of the month, that we provide their community with groceries and hot plant-based meals as well.
So for people who are activists for human rights or animal rights, do you have any thoughts on burnout, preventing that, dealing with it?
Oh, yes, I do. I have a whole lot to say. I'm actually literally right now, like, taking a staycation because I felt a burnout come on. And if you feel like, there's nothing to be ashamed of, first of all, because I felt like I had to push through, in the beginning, and I got to do this and all that. Now I'm like so over that. Like, if you're around people that are forcing you to push through, you got to stop, because burnout is real. And I know for me, I've hit burnout in the middle of still having to work and have people depend on me. And it's almost like you're crawling every day to the finish line. So when you feel, even, I would say even before feeling it, take a little break, take a little, if you can afford to, take a little weekend somewhere and do something, or shut everything down, go camping. Doesn't have to be something that costs, just spend time at home, make your favorite meal, cut the phones off, cut the TVs off, because sometimes burnout isn't just like in the physical work, it's also in the empathy. I'm a very empathic person, so I feel a lot. And sometimes I take on other people's feelings and emotions, and I'm just now learning how to determined, like, oh, that's not mine. And I'm learning ways to release those energies out of my body. So you can burn out just from being empathic. When I first created the group Vegans for Black Lives Matter, I got hit with the burnout the end of the first week, because people were coming into the group. It was so heavy because it was right on top of George Floyd. So everyone was emotional. Everyone was calling each other racist. It was a lot of white guilt. There was a lot of Black anger. And I was reading all the comments and I was taking it in. And next thing you know, I woke up one day and I could barely move. And it was because I felt it in my joints and in my arms. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to survive my own group if I don't figure out how to filter this. So yeah, sometimes even from my own group, I tell the moderator, I'm like, hey, I'm out of here this week. Like, I don't want to deal with any of this stuff this week. So yeah.
Oh, that is such helpful advice. And thanks for being so candid about all that. So as our time is rapidly winding down, Gwenna, what do you see as your life's purpose?
To be of service. And so for right now, I can say it's the food outreach, but I feel myself evolving, and that it's going to take on a different shape and a different meaning. Same for myself. And so I know that I'll always be of service. There's a lot of information that I get about humanity and how to move forward. It's like downloads. And so I'm finally reconciling the strength about love and unity and oneness. And sometimes people don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear, it's time to move on, let certain things go. We don't want to always hear, because sometimes we want to hold on to that anger, and we want to hold on sometimes to oppression. And, for me, I feel like we're creating a new world right now. We are, not I feel like, but we are creating a new world. And the type of world I would like to live in is one that, racism, what is that? That was something they did back in 2000, such and such, those barbaric times. Like, what? You know what I mean? Like, it's some craziness. So the type of world I want to live in is just one where there's just complete liberation, complete freedom, oneness and unity. And, I'm ready to start spreading those type of messages.
Wow. Well, we couldn't stop with a better message than that. Thank you so much, Gwenna. May you be blessed and energized as you continue your wonderful work.